Welcome, everyone, to episode 65 of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. Believe it or not, joined by my brother, Tanner. How's it hanging today?
It's hanging. We are good. Um, we had some technical difficulties before this episode, so we'll see how long we go for today. But you know what? I'm feeling good because we got started, had a good time today, and we got more football. And I've got so much knowledge in my brain than I have yet to say, and you guys are first to hear it. And that's honestly, you should be really proud of yourselves that you're here and really happy that I will bestow this knowledge upon you. So, kudos and
Nice.
cheers, right?
That's it. It's a hell of an opening. All right, well, let's dive into this. If you haven't heard us yet and you're listening to us on Spotify, not on the old YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can see we've got the matchups going on the bottom, right? We've got the menu on the side. We've got everything that what we're going to talk about today. Got Tanner and I's beautiful mugs. Today we're talking folks in Spotify and Apple and Spreaker and everybody else, iHeart Media, that stuff. Dallas Cowboys, like always, not going to be as long this week. Just a little fun game that I'm going to do. Then we've got some NFL news. We're going to chat about some stuff that happened this past week. Then we're going to hit some matchups like we always do. But NFL news, college football, we're hitting World Series predictions as well because right now is a great time in sports. And then even a little bit of UFC 308 because it's a card that I've been waiting for. And I'm a big jiu-jitsu guy. So here we go. Starting with football. Dallas Cowboys game. Percentage chance, Tanner. Dallas makes the playoffs. What's your percent chance they make the playoffs this year?
It's tough because, I think pretty much like the overarching like theme, I guess, of this season is, can they pile up these wins? Can they get enough wins? Because they have obviously a gauntlet moving forward. And I think if they can steal a win or two here and there, I think they have an outside chance to make it. So I'm going to say probably around 20%, 25%, just because they're not winning the division. It's not happening. I don't think that with Washington, even though they have, Jaden Daniels, he went down. Philly has gotten their guys back. They're looking like an absolute unit. They're moving forward. That offense is probably not going to skip a beat. So I think that it's either Philly or Washington's division at this point, and Dallas is just kind of hoping that they can make a wild card spot. But there's four good teams in the NFC North that will likely get at least three of them in the playoffs, I would say, barring any catastrophic injury. And I think that that leaves maybe a spot for Dallas. And if you're going to tell me or make me compare who's going to be better, I would say probably between Dallas and like Chicago, or Dallas and Seattle, or Dallas and Atlanta. I'm going to pick probably every single one of those teams than Dallas. That's not winning their division, right? So I think Dallas has probably not the best odds, to make the wild card, but I think there's a chance, so I'm going to give them 20%. And if they can steal a win out of the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night, given the injuries they have, that's one step towards making the playoffs in a game that they probably wouldn't have won otherwise. So I'll give them 20% chance, at least right now at 3-3.
I'm going to go hard 15 here. You know what I mean? Hard 15, not more than that, because it's tough when you watch this team play, and specifically, it's tough when you watch this team play against teams that they should have beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So for me, that's my biggest thing. And also, you have so many injuries on the Dallas side that you don't know when a lot of these players are going to come back. You don't necessarily know the exact week DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons is going to be back. You don't know. You also don't know about the defensive back situation because right now the defensive backs are getting beat like a drum, right? Even though the number one is out there with Trayvon Diggs. Deron Bland coming back is going to help that. But once again, Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs are kind of very similar cornerbacks. They're ball hawkers, and it's going to be very challenging because you can't not throw to one of them. You got to throw to one of them. So the opportunity could present itself with a little bit more interceptions with Deron Bland coming back and a little bit better pass defense. But you don't have a good pass defense if you don't have a good rush defense. I mean, you saw it happen this week with the Jets. If you don't get any penetration or pressure on the pocket, your best corner, Sauce Gardner, gets beat by George Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple. So, I mean, the cornerbacks are not supposed to be able to, or they not supposed to. They can, of course, they can. Not supposed to cover for 10 seconds. You know what I mean? They're supposed to that pass rush is supposed to get there by that point. So, and you're not seeing any of that in Dallas at all. So for me, that's why I'm going to go so low and go a hard 15. Next percent chance, Dallas has a new head coach next season. What do you think?
I'm going 90%. I think that it's pretty likely, especially with you compare what Dan Quinn is doing over there in Washington and how he's pretty much put together a roster with a lot of Dallas guys over there and just showing kind of how he operates and using his own system over there in Washington. And you see the Dallas defense pretty much crumbling, you know, before our very eyes. Everything that we thought was good about this team from last year is just not the case. I think Dak has played pretty well, but everything else has just been extremely underwhelming. So
He's been okay.
he's been okay, but in when he's okay and he's the bright spot of your team, that's something. You're saying something. So they're
Sure.
3-3. It's not looking good for them. They have an outside chance to make the playoffs, and unless they make a really big, deep run into the playoffs, if they make it, I don't think McCarthy's here next year. I just, he hasn't had the postseason success, and that's what Jerry's looking for at this point. And the hot seat's getting pretty hot, especially if he goes down and has just not a great season. Especially in a contract year. This is the last year of his deal, pretty much. You got Dak locked up. You got all your guys signed. Jerry did everything that he needed to do to sign his players in the offseason. Obviously, he didn't go and get a bunch of guys, but this is a team that, you should have been building for the past like 4 years. And now it seems like it just fell apart in the last year. And I don't know. I think you have put some blame on the head coach for that. And definitely some on the management, but I think, he's there. It's a position where, it's one of the biggest pedestals in the NFL is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, especially in the coaching trees. So, there's going to be a ton of people who are going to want it. And Jerry's probably going to go in-house for this, all things considered. That's what he likes to do. But I would give someone else a shot. I really would, just because you never know, man. I just think McCarthy's gotten beaten pretty much every big game you've played. So you're getting destroyed at home. The culture sucks. Like, there's a lot of things. So
Yeah, you can point to a number of things. For me, I'm going to put this a little bit lower than what you have. I'm going to go 70% chance. And the only reason I'm saying 70% chance is because I saw the Cowboys with not a worse culture than this, but a worse coach with Jason Garrett, and they signed him. They brought him back. So I've seen it before as a fan, but I'm going to go 70% chance here that McCarthy's not here next season. Like you said, you are trying to go for playoff success here. Now, given when your coach or your GM doesn't make a single move in the offseason other than bringing in Ezekiel Elliott and Eric Kendricks and re-signing your long snapper, not a whole lot's going to change.
yeah,
You are focusing and hoping that your 6, 7, 8 guys that you drafted are going to be starters. That's unheard of in the NFL. That's absolutely unheard of. You're hoping for like 2 a draft. You know what I mean? Maybe, right? Like your first and second. If third hits, awesome. Fourth, fifth, sixth, all right. It's it's all added bonus here. But if you don't expect that to happen, with his, you look at the track record and it's tough because Dallas has had success on 6th-round picks, specifically with Anthony Brown. Deron Bland was back there as well. Trayvon Diggs was a 2nd-round corner. So it's like they've had success in the draft throughout, but they also haven't, right? Specifically in the linebacker position, they drafted Jalen Smith second round recently, and he was off the team within that rookie contract, unfortunately. So,
Leighton was a 1st-round pick as well.
And Leighton was a 1st-round pick. You drafted Leighton just like you drafted Sean Lee. Well, no, I don't know if Sean Lee necessarily had pre-existing injuries, but Leighton definitely did. And unfortunately, his career was cut short. So I think there needs to be a new coach. For me, I would love to go an offensive-minded coach because I need to see if this is it. Because you've seen it historically, if the Cowboys make the playoffs, they get out-coached. And I need a coach that's not going to get out-coached. So that's going to be pretty challenging to do, especially with Jerry's ego and everything that's going to go on with that coach. I mean, you've only seen 2 coaches in my lifetime that really even fought back against Jerry Jones, and that was Bill Parcells and Jimmy Johnson. And both, Bill Parcells, they were both there for a little bit, but did can Jimmy after winning a Super Bowl.
They're both revered as very, very good NFL head coaches, by the way. So
100%. And percent chance Dallas makes a move before the trade deadline. This can be a big move, or this could be just a single move.
I mean, it's tough, because you think about like all the trades that Dallas kind of does. It just kind of the guys that they like to go and nab on the practice squad, stuff like that. So I'm not gonna go too insanely like low. I'm gonna go about 20. I'll say 25, maybe 30%. Just a move in general. A big move, a splash, a pick that's not like a fifth or sixth rounder. Probably zero, close to zero, if not pretty much nothing, because they don't have, Jerry's already come out and said it that he's not going to make a big move before free agency ends. And I'm going to believe him because I did when they did in the offseason. So I don't think there's a whole ton there, but I would love to see him go make a big move. They have salary cap room now, and I think they will potentially make one. I mean, you look back and see what Jerry did with like the Trey Lance trade. Was that a trade they really needed to make? No, not really. But it was like, okay, let's go see if we can get a developing quarterback in a contract year for Dak. And I think it's just little wrinkles like that that Jerry likes to see oftentimes, and he could go make a move to maybe help get like a depth player. I could totally see him going and getting like a defensive end from a team who's not really using one. You know what I mean? Obviously, like I don't have a ton of specific examples just because I don't know the depth guys that well, in the NFL that he's going to go and try and get. But like, they don't have DeMarcus Lawrence. Micah Parsons week to week. They already have lost Sam Williams on the season, and the guys that they've drafted just really haven't been getting it done. We saw Mozzie Smith's name like one time this entire year, so where has been, I can't remember him. The defensive tackle that has like the really Odigizua. We haven't seen him pretty much at all this year. We haven't seen pretty much anybody that they've drafted. So it's definitely a position of need on the defensive line, pretty much all throughout. So if they make a move, that's my guess where they're going to go, because they've been getting gashed. They're one of the worst teams against the run, and they just need to try and find a solution. And I could see Jerry just trying to go and make almost a desperate move to go and see if he can get a player, but he's not going to pay an exuberant amount of money or draft capital to go and get him though. So I'll stick on 25 because it's just there's not a big chance, I don't think.
I'm going to go like 10%, you know what I mean? Real low, because Dallas historically doesn't do it. Now, a better question might be, what's the percentage chance Jerry's going to come out and say something that, like, I would say 99% of Cowboy fans don't agree with? And that's probably about 100%.
Yeah, it's probably.
You know what I mean? Because
it happens
because
every
today
week.
he came out and said that Derrick Henry wouldn't work in the Dallas system. What the fuck do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, what?
Is that a bash on the offensive line?
Is that?
Is that a bash on the coaching? Like, what is that?
Himself? Like, what? I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, this has to be fake. Like, it has to be fake. And then it doesn't look like it's fake. And then, a couple weeks ago, he came and went viral for saying that he didn't have any money in the offseason. And then he threatened to fire the guy. But he didn't have any money in the offseason. That, to me, is crazy. That's crazy. Because if you signed CeeDee Lamb and you signed Dak, and you did it with, like, very close to the same amount of money that you had in the offseason. And also, if you would have just signed Dak first, I get it. It wouldn't have been a good precedent for CeeDee, but you free up all of that money.
Yeah, like,
and then you can just give it to CeeDee.
A couple months before, anywhere before when they did it, they have a chance to sign someone. But continue.
A lot of people, because when Dallas finally did the Dak Prescott contract, at that point in time, I'm not sure current status at this very moment, they were number one in cap space in the NFL. Number one in the NFL. No. Listen to that. What do you mean you can't make it? You didn't have money. All you had to do was get the contracts done and then do it. You can't tell me that both sides didn't want those contracts done with CeeDee and Dak. Because last season, not this season, last season, they both came out and said, we want to play this season, not worry about it. Okay, so when does that mean you do it? The off season.
It's a lot.
It's a tough look over there in Dallas, and it's tough scenes. And as you can see, we are hurting over here as Cowboy fans. But now moving on to the NFL news section of the podcast, we have to start out with a team that has, unfortunately, more Super Bowl wins than the Dallas Cowboys, the only team that does. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Veteran move from a veteran coach, starting Russell Wilson. Look, no disrespect on Fields, but he doesn't make those throws. He does not make those throws to George Pickens. And right into my next point. How impressive is George Pickens? And how much of a number one wide receiver is this guy? Like, come on now. I mean, that touchdown catch was unbelievable. And oh, by the way, we said a little bit earlier, beat Sauce Gardner. So that's a number one in my book because Sauce is top one or top two corners. So that's what I got on them. What do you got on the Steelers team? Because that's a division that you watch more than probably any other division aside from the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is, but I looking at it, it's just I think it's Russ's team. I think he's more of the natural born leader. I think when you compare him and Justin, and when you compare the success that each of them has had in the NFL, obviously Russ has more, and he has more career starts and more experience and everything like that. So, you look at these two guys, just compare them side by side, and I think it's not, it's not a super tough decision for Tomlin to make. But the question coming in was like, what type of Russell Wilson, what version of Russell Wilson are you going to get? I saw after the game, and this is something that I was kind of a little, surprised about. But they kind of asked him after the game, Russ, what's the new catchphrase? What's the new, thing going, the motto for this season? And he's like, oh, I don't got one this year, So it kind of, obviously it's something tiny, but it kind of shows you it's okay. He's kind of putting his head down. He's going to work. He's in Pittsburgh. He wants to make this town, work like the people do in this town. He wants to kind of submerge himself in this Pittsburgh culture. And I think he's done just that. And I think he's already showing you, what he's got. So I think that he looked like vintage Russ the other night against a very good Jets defense, even though they weren't playing at their best level. And they had a couple guys out, but he made that offense go from, Kenny Pickett level and Justin Fields going 4-2, to throwing the ball down the field, making you stretch the field, and really working the passing game, in an offense that not every week Najee Harris goes for, 100 yards. Granted, he's had a good year, but he's not a premier running back in the NFL, I wouldn't say. So I think, a lot of it does rest on the quarterback's hands, and Russ showed you what he got. I mean, he's going out, out of the pocket. He's making these sidearm throws. He's throwing across his body. He's making plays. He looks like Russell Wilson back in Seattle, man. And I think you got to give the credit to Mike Tomlin in just being able to utilize Russ's strengths. I mean, I was watching that offense, and it looked like they were running plays that I hadn't seen since Ben Roethlisberger has been there. It looked like an offense that was clicking, an offense that could move the football, and I haven't seen that since Big Ben. So I think the questions are, while they might not be put to bed, I think that they are kind of at rest for the moment, because Russell Wilson showed you that he's still got some juice in the tank, and he's down there, he's ready to work, and he's just gonna continue to learn this offense and be better. So
yeah, and with Russ too, specifically with that performance, if he goes out and has a horrendous game, then that's when everybody's going to start to be like, hey, let's look at a change here. But
100%.
if you don't have first quarter Russell Wilson, the rest of the season he's going to keep that job. But that first quarter was a little dicey there for a second, because when he came out and was missing those throws, it was like, oh no, here we go again. Yeah. And it kept panning to Justin Fields and everything. And I know the camera just does that. It's not actually that dramatic, but
yeah, granted, bit of an overreaction, because on a I'd say a weaker Jets unit, but he looked good, and you can't deny that.
And not to mention the Jets. I mean, they have a coach right now with, the fact that they released Robert Saleh, who's getting paid an absolute exuberant amount of money. I still, we talked about that as soon as it happened, and we both didn't agree with the move. And to me, I'm watching that game, and the Jets defense looks worse than when he was there. And it's not very shocking at all to me. So that's just kind of one of those things that the Jets, bringing in Devontae Adams, you would have liked to see a little bit more juice there. But once again, brand new, just came in. Tough scene for him to lose like twice in a week to the Steelers. So that's tough. I saw that post.
That would hurt me too.
Yeah, that would stink. Next, moving on, Jordan Love, top 10 quarterback for me. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback. I got to give you your props because you were talking about the Green Bay Packers winning this division in the beginning of the season. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to do that, but they are 100% a front runner for this division. Oh, wait, every single team is a front runner for this division. But before we get into the Lions and the Vikings right after this, how good is Jordan Love? And do you think he's a top 10 quarterback?
I think you and I we talked about a couple weeks back, we kind of had that comparison with Dak, pretty much putting every quarterback in front of your eyes, all the other 31 starters, and saying, is he better than Dak Prescott? And Dak, kind of landed in the 12 to 13 range, which I think is absolutely correct where he sits. But one of the quarterbacks we put ahead of him was Jordan Love. So I think that if he's not a top 10 quarterback in your eyes, I think he's pretty dang close, if not like right on the border. So I think you can consider him pretty much in that group as well, just based on how he's playing right now. This Packers offense is hitting on all cylinders pretty much every time they get the ball. And I think you give a lot of that credit to Josh Jacobs and what he's been able to do, in Jordan Love's absence, them kind of establishing themselves as like a power running football team, and Jordan Love coming in, going play action, ripping the ball 20, 30 yards down the field seemingly every time. He's just out there throwing darts. And when he's not throwing darts, it's throwing darts to the other team. But he's putting the ball in the end zone a lot of the time, which is kind of the thing that matters for this team. They're scoring points at a high rate, and he's leading that offense. So I think that the unit as a whole is just fantastic, and I think the defense alone as well is just kind of the unsung hero. I think that they have really put them in, been dominant in a lot of games. I mean, you go back to that Arizona Cardinals game, and that game was dominant from Jordan Love, absolutely, but Cardinals couldn't do anything. And granted, Cardinals aren't the craziest team in the NFL, but Green Bay is looking fantastic. Their new safety with Xavier McKinney, he looks fantastic. I think he is fit in like a glove. I think that this defense is pretty much rolling, man. And if they continue to do this, then they're just going to continue to give Green Bay's offense more opportunities and more chances for Jordan to go down and score. And with an excellent run game, it's just a fantastic recipe to succeed. So I think it's crazy to think about, because you don't even look at anyone in their receiving core too. Like, you got Romeo Dobbs, you got Christian Watson, you got Jaden Reed, are any of those names Pro Bowlers? Like, no. No. They're doing this with Jordan Love and Jordan Love's talent, I think, alone, too. So I think you give a lot of credit to the coaching, give a lot of credit to that offensive scheme, and LaFleur's just diming him up, even when Jordan Love's not even playing. So I think give credit to Jordan Love. He is, like, making the most out of this system.
And moving on to some other teams in the division, the Lions and the Vikings. How good is Jared Goff? How good is this guy? I mean, these last games have been, spectacular. Watching this guy throw the ball, I mean, they're perfect and they're right on the money. And you look down and he's like 15 for 15 all the time, and you're like, how has this guy not missed a pass yet? What have you seen from Jared Goff? And also, before you answer that, that Vikings game, they also showed that they were for real too. Even though they lost that game, they showed they were for real, and Sam Darnold played a hell of a game as well. But we got to give our praise to Jared Goff, who has now entered the MVP chat.
Yeah, I like to think that the only chant that Detroit fans is Jared Goff, because that's all I hear them say any time that he gets in the field. But I think he's turned this city around. He's turned this team around. He's done everything that he needs to do and more. His completion percentage is through the roof in the past 3 games. He's playing at an all-time level, so I think that you got to give a lot of credit to Gibbs and Montgomery. I think that they are playing out of their mind right now. I love their new nickname with Sonic and Knuckles. I think that it's out of left field. Like, where did it come from? I don't know, but it's kind of perfect. It's kind of just like it makes so much sense, and it just fits so well. But you got Sonic with Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's running like a bat out of hell right now. I think he's probably one of the best running backs in space in the NFL. I know I say that about some guys, but he just makes it look like he turns nothing into something every single time. He makes one move and it makes 3 guys miss. It looks like you're playing Madden. It looks like you got, he's going up to him. He just hits B on the controller and he just spins right out of a tackle, and he just, boom, touchdown every time. So he's just
mashing B.
Exactly. And you're juking out 3 guys, and he's just shifty, and he's fantastic, and Montgomery is an excellent change of pace back to get in there and start power football. Just running right into people, just bashing them. In that offensive line, just fantastic. Probably the best in the NFL at this point. So give him a ton of credit. Without Aiden Hutchinson in a game that they probably really needed him, I think that defense stepped up and just made next man up kind of mentality and looked really, really good. So it'll be a question moving forward if that Aiden Hutchinson injury is going to be a big hole, but so far it looks like it hasn't been too crazy large. I know that's crazy saying what he does bring to the field, but that defense has started to step up. They're more than just him at Aiden Hutchinson, and I think they're going to continue to just get better and better as a unit moving forward, even with the recent Jamison Williams kind of news on the offensive side. Like, yeah, 100%. He's that deep threat guy, but they're gonna keep rolling. It's next man up for the Lions, and they look like they're headed to another NFC Championship game, and that division is wide open. So anyone can really take it. And Detroit's gonna have a lot of really hard matchups, coming in the next couple of weeks for in terms of the division. So I'm excited to see it go down. This is gonna be a fun division.
And potentially the only division that has 4 teams make the playoffs,
And it's
which
likely.
would be
Like, if I saw a post that was like, if this playoff started right now, they would all be in. All of them. Because they're all
that's
positive.
crazy.
All of them. They're it's like 5-1, 5-2, 5-2, and 4-2. 2 bye weeks in there. Like, come on, that's just not right. Like, I just don't. That's what I'm saying. Like with Dallas earlier, there's just so many teams coming out of these divisions, especially this one alone. You can't. I mean, it's tough because I think 3 out of the 4 are making it, probably.
I mean, yeah, for sure. 3 out of the 4, I think so. And then the 4th one is, yeah, like you said, if another team comes in from another division and has a better record, they'll take them out. But I don't know. They also all got to play each other a lot. So if they all beat each other just a little bit, then it could get real close for that division and the playoffs. Now, Vikings, got to give them a little bit credit. That team looked really good. UTEP, Aaron Jones, vintage running Green Bay, like he looked so good. Justin Jefferson, he's always looking good. And then, like I said, you got to give Sam Darnold some props as well. The Vikings defense did scare me a little bit because when they needed to stop the Lions, they couldn't. So that you kind of saw the vulnerability there. It was their first time they had taken a loss this season. Tanner and I, hey, nice call by us. We did go in there and call against an undefeated team and got that one right. Now, injuries, a ton of injuries this week. Not an injury, but you already sent it. Jamison Williams got suspended for PEDs. Now going into actual injuries. Jaden Daniels injured. We kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier in the pod. He's week to week. It's a rib injury. That is a huge injury. Speaking from experience, not on a professional football field or even minor football field, I've broken my ribs. Did it at a ride on Six Flags. It was a tough scene, but I made it out of the ride. That ride's no longer there. Probably that reason. I didn't say anything, I promise. I got you, Six Flags. Dude, Jaden Daniels going out with a rib injury, going week to week, is massive. That's like another injury that we saw with Mike Evans and his hamstring. If you go week to week with a hamstring, or you go week to week with ribs, like that's something that doesn't heal because you're constantly using that hamstring. Think about the ribs. Think about every single time he takes a snap. Think about every single time he moves his body to hand off. Think about every single time he has to tuck and run. Every single time he has to turn his body one way or the other to look for the pass. Dude, that is, and not to mention any contact. If he plays, he is going to have a flak jacket the size of a pumpkin. It's going to be absolutely absurd. No, not the Halloween rib. I'm not joking. This like, if it's that banged up of a rib from what I'm reading on like multiple sources, what would you do if you're Washington? Because me, it's like, look, if it's week to week, sit him for 3, and just kind of maybe it'll get a little bit better. I know that's tough to say, especially with the division, but you beat the Panthers 40-7. Mariota can clearly do it. Now it depends on who they're playing. Obviously, they're not going to be playing the Panthers every week, but what do you got on this Jaden Daniels injury? Because man, this is very, very big.
It's massive. I mean, this is probably one of I'd say a favorite for a top 4 seed, at least probably a top 3 seed, I would say.
Sure.
So I think that they're a team that can absolutely win a game in the playoffs too. At least one. I see them 100% in the divisional round, and it's a team that is doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon. I mean, Dan Quinn's done a fantastic job, and when you throw in a wrench like taking your starting quarterback out, it's going to make things a little tough, especially if Jaden Daniels is not able to go for the next couple weeks. You and I were talking, they don't have a bye week until like week 14. It's not something that you can just kind of brush over and be like, okay, we'll get them after the bye. No, it's not. It's a decision you got to make now. It kind of reminds me of Joe Burrow last season when he was dealing with all of those injuries. He was dealing with all that kind of stuff. And the big question was, do they sit him? What do they do with him moving forward? Because you can't go out and start him when he's injured, obviously. And that affected them tremendously in that season. He couldn't sit under center. He couldn't, he had to sit in shotgun. It was just one of those things. Now, granted, it's a different injury. But I think to your point, it's something you need to monitor. And I don't want, another situation in Washington to come up like with RG3. That's just something
Call.
that is just very much in recent in the minds of Washington fans, and that's something you don't want to happen to your future franchise quarterback because he's the franchise at this point. He's going to be there for a long time, so you don't want to just ruin it immediately. I think you kind of give him some time. I think Mariota has played really well. The defense is humming. The team itself has been getting wins, and Mariota didn't lose the game. So that's a massive sign moving forward for this offense. And a large part of that offense is the running game with Robinson and Eckler and the whole team as a unit. So I think they're going to be okay if they are unable to have him for this upcoming week. I don't know who they play. It's down there at the bottom somewhere. But like you said, it's not going to be all Carolina. So it's going to be interesting moving forward to see what they do. I personally would probably sit him, because this is, I think, more than just this season, because you just don't want to do that. It's especially when he comes back, how well is he going to play? You don't want to put him out there in a situation where he could get hurt even worse, which is obviously the biggest concern. So I would be very, very careful. If the trainers say he's good to go and he feels like playing, let him play. If they don't, obviously don't. You don't want a situation on your hands.
And Deshaun Watson, that one is season-ending injury. Achilles gone. You wonder kind of what's going to happen next with Deshaun Watson. You wonder if Cleveland's going to kind of go away. If they do go away, they can say because it's an Achilles injury. They can't say it's because of play now, like on the field. But we'll see what happens there. Deshaun Watson, that not even going to get into that whole situation, but never want to see somebody pop their Achilles playing sports. I've seen it before. It's a bad injury.
Hurts.
It hurts. Yeah, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine how bad that would hurt. But he's out for the season. We've got Jameis going in, so we'll see how Cleveland does. Don't think they're making the playoffs or going to get any more close. Then we've got a ton of wide receivers. Godwin got carted off, is out for the season. Mike Evans injured an already injured hamstring going into the week. Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers is out for the season. And Deebo Samuel, man, that lost me the fantasy game, not going to lie to you, in a couple leagues. Or not a couple leagues. Actually, I pulled it off in your league now that I have to say it. And now I'm thinking about it, I played Lamar Jackson in the other league, and he put up like 60 on me. I wouldn't know it anyway. But anyway, Deebo Samuel, just out of nowhere, like 10 minutes before, like 4:15 before win the game, that's when they said that he went to questionable. I'm like, guys, you got to give me a little bit more than 10 minutes before the game here as a veteran fantasy player. But pneumonia. Deebo has pneumonia, and there's no timeable return for that. I had mono as a kid. That was like, I don't know what kind of stage. I think mono could turn into pneumonia. I don't know, something like that. I'm not really a scientist, just a sports guy, couch warrior over here.
Just a sports guy.
Just a big sports guy, you know what I mean? If you're listening, I think you are too. Pneumonia, that's not something to mess around with. You know what I mean? And you saw him on the sideline. Like, that is a very, very serious, sickness right now. So Deebo, I don't know. I given I'm not an NFL player, I don't have nearly the, recovery and everything that they have. I was out for a solid month, and then even then, I wasn't back in sports for a little bit after that as well. So I don't know if Debo is going to be a month, but I think it's going to at least be a couple weeks, if not longer than that. And then you already mentioned Jamison Williams getting suspended for PEDs. Last teams, first got to shout out the Ravens. They need a little bit of cake because, I mean, Mark Andrews finally 2 touchdowns, getting back to it. Derrick Henry looks like, I mean, the best running back in the league, and it's not even close. So much more gas left in the tank. Can't believe that so many teams didn't take a chance on him. Joe Buck nailed it on the broadcast. Absolutely nailed it. Said that, so many teams are looking at this right after he broke that run. Derrick Henry's mad about getting caught after the game. It's like this guy is unbelievable. He has 30-something yards in the first half. Then he erupts for 140 in the second. It's like, dude, this guy just gets better as the game goes on. You don't want to tackle him. You want to get out of his way. He's so big and he runs that fast. It's literally unfair. And then you got Lamar Jackson out there. One of the craziest plays, not craziest plays, one of the coolest plays I've ever seen in my life, when you can see how fast somebody actually is, when you know how fast Derrick Henry is. Did you see Lamar Jackson when he handed the ball off to Derrick Henry at the end of that game and started blocking for him?
Yeah, it was a good block.
I don't think.
Good couple blocks.
Who's faster?
Nobody. Nobody.
Out of those two, it's insane. Lamar got there so fast, and you could tell Derrick kind of let up a little bit, or you thought he did. And then Lamar actually made the block. Now, given Winfield was the guy that tackled him and kind of pushed him out of bounds, but still, hell of a play, so athletic. How good is this team? Because they are so fun to watch. And if they didn't lose against Kansas City in week 1, this is a undefeated team. How good is this team?
I mean, they were so close to winning in week 1. And I just want to say, as a kid, dude, you were on your previous point, you were a sickly child. You were quite the bedridden kid. I'll put it like that. Every time I turned around, you were just vomiting in a bucket for one reason or another. But I mean, it got so bad. We had written your names on dishes and silverware and stuff. And you can go back at the house right now. There are probably still plates that have your name on the bottom of them and cups and stuff like that. Because you got sick so much. I don't know how I got the good part of it. I don't get sick too much. It's getting worse as I've gotten older, but as a kid I was great.
Brutal immune system over here. Mom and dad just gave you the whole immune system and just gave me none of it. I had pneumonia, I had mono, I had strep throat 5 times. It was horrendous. It was not a good scene for me as a child. You were fine. Even though I was a room over, you were still fine. Nothing ever got you every time it got me. And I got mono by drinking out of a water hose. Come on. Really, come on. How else did that happen?
It's tough. That's a tough scene.
It is.
I'm sorry for you. You've gotten better. We'll say that. The immune system's gotten a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit of modern medicine. We can attribute it to that. But
supplement game. It's getting strong.
Yeah, 100%. But no, with the Ravens, man, they're an absolute unit. And yeah, Lamar is now the lead running back. Apparently, he can do that too.
It was so crazy.
It was awesome. I was like, is that Lamar? And it was funny too, because I was talking with one of my buddies. I was like, man, because I had Derrick Henry. I was like, I need a big Derrick Henry run right now. I just need a vintage Josh Norman stiff arming him off the sideline, go to the end zone. And he did it. And he's just like, boom, 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 boom. Have you seen his face while he runs?
Well, yes. And how great was it that he ran 80-something yards, and then Baltimore was like, no. And they gave him they gave it right back to him. They're like, no. Get in the end zone. Get stopped once and goes right in the end zone. I'm like, let's go, dude.
I know. And it's just, it makes you really think about, Cowboys could have had this guy in the offseason, and they just easily didn't do it. It's just
so many teams.
So many other teams could have. Oh no, he's a 30-year-old running back. Who cares? Who cares? He looks like a bowling ball on legs. He just doesn't matter. Yes, he's amazing. And that offense is just so good. I want to see the defense get a little bit better. I want to see them get better against the pass. I think they're worst in the league right now in terms of passing yards per game. They've done well on the ground, I think, overall, but if you're able to go in there and run the ball, it seems like you're going to be able to put up a lot of points in this team. You look back to Cincinnati not that long ago, a week or two ago. they put up like close to 30 points on them, and they went to overtime. And that's the type of games that the Ravens are gonna lose. Like teams that do have explosive offenses are gonna be able to play well against the Ravens. And if Lamar is not, if they don't have their best day, then that's a game they lose. I really think so. And you saw that week 1 against the Chiefs, and it's just one of those things that later on down the line in the playoffs, it's going to hurt you, especially if you do get that number 1 seed. If they do have a fantastic run, go over there and get it. But I want to see that defense get better through the air, because it's a defense that really usually is very good through the air. So it's kind of surprising that they haven't been, and they haven't lost a whole ton of guys. So I want to see him get better in that department. And I think that's pretty much the only blemish on this team at this point. I mean, you saw Baker have a lot of success early on, especially in the first half against that, in passing the ball and everything too. So they kind of clamp down on him towards the end. But Mike Evans goes off. Obviously, Chris Godwin at the very, very end. But it's something that needs to be fixed moving forward, especially if they have hopes of winning a Super Bowl, because I think they're the most talented team in the NFL, just put together on paper. And that's the thing moving forward that's gonna hinder them, especially in the playoffs against the Chiefs team who comes roaring in with a great offense in the playoffs for no reason.
Literally no reason at all either. Shout out to Derrick Henry's jeans, 6'3", 247, by the way. Just had to say that. And then I was gonna say it's tough because this guy like is known as like being kind of a little shorter running back. He's got like 4 inches. Derrick Henry's got 4 inches on him. This guy's got 4 pounds on him. Jerome Bettis the bus. Have you ever seen Mike Allstott? Maybe like these guys. Now Mike Allstott was nowhere near as fast, and neither was Jerome Bettis. I'm not saying these guys are as fast as Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's 101. He was built in a lab. Quite literally was built in a lab. But I've never seen somebody that like people literally just bounce off of him like they used to do with Jerome Bettis. Like people just bounce off of Derrick Henry for no reason, and like defensive backs have come out and said, like, no, I don't want to tackle him. Like, I don't want to get in his way. And so it's like, that's like, I don't want to tackle him. I just want to get in his way. And like, he just runs you the hell over if you're in his way. So it's like, he's so good. He's not any signs of slowing down. This Ravens team is a top team in the NFL, and absolutely see them making it to the divisional round this year, unless they have to run into the Chiefs before, because who knows? Let's go to before we go to the matchup preview section, last thing we got to say, Kansas City Chiefs, still undefeated. When they lose, we're going to talk about them too. But when they win, we got to talk about them because they're the only undefeated team in the NFL, and they are doing this quite literally when Patrick Mahomes has probably played the worst in his career. Like, let's be real. When was the last time Patrick Mahomes had these bad of numbers? I mean, I think he had like 150. If he didn't have that rushing touchdown, it would have been a whole lot worse. If he didn't go viral for absolutely truck sticking, holding the up on Madden. You know what I mean? It's a Madden podcast. That's just absurd that he did that, by the way. Dad bod for the win. But Mahomes is a guy that also gets better, and like Tanner said, for no reason, just decides to show up in the playoffs. So you have to be performing at an all-time high when you're going to be playing this Kansas City Chiefs team, because they're going to be in the playoffs, and very, very likely they could have that bye. So now going to the NFL matchup prediction section of the podcast, we have the Vikings versus the Rams. This one's pretty easy to me. The Vikings almost took down the Detroit Lions last week, got very, very close. Sam Darnold looked very good to me. Like we already gave Aaron Jones a bunch of shout-outs. The Rams have a lot of injuries and a lot of guys that aren't going to be back for this game, like Puka Nacua. He's supposed to be back in a couple weeks. Could be as early this week. Not too sure if that's going to happen. Don't think so. Then you have Cooper Kupp that was actually seen practicing in a limited fashion. So if Cooper Kupp comes back, that's going to be nice. But Vikings and Rams, this one's easy for me. Vikings.
Sorry, technical difficulties, but we're back. My mouse just didn't work. But yeah, I think it's easily Vikings. I think that the only way that the Rams have a shot in this game is if they're able to put up a lot of points. If they can go out there and score and beat the Lions or beat the Vikings at their own game. I think that they're going to have to go out there and go up against this Vikings unit that is just a defensive unit that's playing really, really well. I think that, that pass rush has been getting a home a lot. They've been putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they've been playing really well. And I just don't see the Rams, with all the injuries that they've had, I don't think that they have a good chance of doing that with no Puka, maybe Cooper Cup and everything, but yeah, I just don't see it happening. I just think the Vikings are too good offensively. They're blocking up front amazingly well. That offensive line is playing probably the best I've seen it in Minnesota in a long time. And Darnold's got time, and you really see how talented he is down the stretch. With these guys and these fantastic receivers with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and he's getting them the rock, and he's playing really well. He's playing good football, and I don't think the Rams are going to come in here and change that. So yeah, give me Vikings easily.
A really good Sunday matchup. We've got the Eagles versus the Bengals. Who do you got in that one?
I think give me Eagles. This feels like a game that the Bengals can easily lose. This feels like a game that it's like a trap game. Almost. I like the Bengals. I like the offensively. I think they're going to play really well, but up front, I just don't think they match up that great. And Eagles look high flying. They look like the Eagles of old. They got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith back, and it looks like they really haven't skipped a beat anymore. That offense is going to be clicking, and that Bengals defense really looks not good. It looks not great, So I give me the Bengals, or give me the Eagles. Excuse me.
I'm definitely going Eagles on this one as well. And it's interesting because the Bengals, like you mentioned, they have such a good offense. They also, Joe Burrow, unfortunately, has been hit the most since he's been in the league. So, if you listen to this podcast, usually, we wait some months. But we're going to start sprinkling in a little bit of draft magic every now and then. Cincinnati Bengals fans, you're welcome. I know you've been waiting. Who are we going? You know what I mean? Cincinnati Bengals, what are they going to do in the draft this year? I definitely think that the offensive line, and this is after 7 games of play, you know what I mean? Not a ton of games, just a way too early prediction here. But the Cincinnati Bengals struggle up front, like you mentioned. So offensive lineman for me is 100% going to be in the picture there. And probably number 2, you pretty much mentioned it as well. And that's why I wanted to bring up this point very quickly. The defensive line. They're getting beat like a drum on the defensive line. And I think any team that can rush the ball, the Eagles are in town with Saquon Barkley, who had 196 yards and didn't really play in the fourth quarter last week. So, yeah, you know what I mean? I think that's something that could help them tremendously as well in the draft. And then what's always going to help them is a little bit of safety because they lost Jesse Bates, a couple years ago. And they also lost a lot of their cornerbacks as well. So I think that the Bengals have a ton of needs. And if this is a team that doesn't start to pile up the wins, their draft pick's going to be a little bit better than a lot of people thought it was going to be. So that's when your team starts to not do as well, that's what you got to look at the positive side of stuff. And like I said, every now and then we're going to drop some draft knowledge in here. If you listen to us in the off season, we go really ham on draft. We even upload reels. That's how crazy we are on the draft. We're insane. We love the draft. And oh, by the way, in April, if you weren't here last time, we live streamed the first round of the NFL draft. You guys asked us to do the second, third round. We're not sure if we're going to do that because that's a lot. My voice is pretty much gone after the first day. But first round NFL draft for sure. Sign us up again for that. Tina, we're going to have the glasses going. We're going to have the hats going. We're going to have the ties. We're going to have everything going. Good pick, bad pick, tie. Can't wait. Going to bring it back. Now, Eagles and Bengals, we both mentioned we're going to take the Eagles Sunday. 2 games because I had the Bears and the Commanders, but Jaden, we don't know if it's going to go. And for me, it's pretty simple. If the starting quarterback and the reason that Washington is that good right now is not there, I'm going to give the edge to the Bears. I'm also going to give the edge to the Bears, even if Jaden plays, because like I was saying earlier, that injury is going to hinder him incredibly. So I'm going to go Bears on this one. Then we're going to give you another matchup because we were talking about this team so much last week. Who do you got in the Bears Commanders?
I think for a lot of the same reasons, I'm going to go Bears, and it's just based on the uncertainty of Jaden Daniels because when he's in, I think that this is a team, and when he's under 100%, I'll say that this is a team that is hard to beat. Especially offensively with all the options that he gives you, not only, running the ball, but throwing the ball downfield, especially in that, option kind of offense that they do like to run. So it's hard because, yes, you can run it with Mariota, but it's obviously going to be a step down. It will 100% be a step down. And I like the Bears defense this year. I think that they have a fantastic secondary. And up front, they got a couple guys like Montez Sweat, I believe they got him over there, that have been playing pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Washington can hold up offensively. And if you give Caleb, more than a couple opportunities, I think he's going to go make the most of it. Now, Dan Quinn has, I think Dan Quinn's defense is really good. He puts his guys in great positions to succeed. He's always got the right guy in the right spot, and that's kind of the big thing. So it's going to be a really, really good benchmark for Caleb offensively to see what he's going to be able to do against this Washington defense, to see if he's going to be able to go in there and play like he did against Jacksonville, and play like he did this past couple weeks, because this is a defense that's not just going to let you have, these easy completions and stuff like that. Like, they got Bobby Wagner in the middle of the field. They got a couple guys back there that have been playing outstandingly, and their defensive line is always a very good unit, regardless of who they have in there. It almost seems like Dan Quinn poached like half the Cowboys roster and brought him over to Washington, and are like, okay, we're just gonna do it, but over here now. So I like that defense. Anytime Dan Quinn's coaching a defense, I like it. So he's got an amazing track history, and it's hard for me to it's going to be a close game. I think this is not going to be a pretty game by any stretch of the means. I think this is going to be a game where if both quarterbacks do play with Jaden Daniels, there's going to be some mistakes, because the defenses are good and they have been good all year. So I think it's going to be a little rough, but I will go Bears just based on the uncertainty of Jaden Daniels. And like you said, even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%, and he's going to be kind of second guessing a couple stuff mentally because he's not 100%, right? So I think I'm going to go Bears, but I mean, the Commanders could win this if Jaden goes in there and he's just like, all Tylenol up, and he's like, all right, I'm not feeling a thing. Come on. So that could happen.
Tylenol up. You can imagine they're just throwing there on a ton of Tylenol. No, they're gonna stick them with Toradol. I don't know if you can do that in the NFL. I know that's what they do in hockey. They just shoot you up in the locker room and you go right back out there and you feel like a new man. Bills versus Seahawks. This one is, I just had to bring it up because the Seahawks are a team that have looked really good at points this season, and the Bills are a team that have kind of started off slow but then end the game really hot. You know what I mean? End the game hot. We don't know the status of DK Metcalf right now, so that's obviously huge if he doesn't play. But Bills versus Seahawks, who do you got in this one?
I got Bills. I think it's exactly what you said. DK Metcalf has been this offense pretty much all year. If he's not good to go, I don't see them being able to stretch the field. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I like Tyler Lockett, don't get me wrong, but that's not the physical type of receiver that Geno's kind of been using this far at this point in the season. Like, I think you saw last game that he was struggling in some moments, and DK was the one who kind of got him out of those. I've been watching this offense, and they just, when they throw a 5-yard slant, over to DK, he's gonna muscle the defensive back. He's gonna catch that ball. JSN and Tyler Lockett, like, he's got to put it on a dime for those guys to catch it. And I think Geno's been playing pretty well this season, but I have seen him miss, some throws due to accuracy at some points. So I think DK kind of makes up for that in his ability, just his massive frame, his speed, everything that he can bring to a game. But if he's not ready to go, this Buffalo Bills defense doesn't have to worry about a whole lot. Kenneth Walker can absolutely take over a game, but if you only got to focus on one thing, it does kind of make the Seahawks offense a little bit one-dimensional. So, we saw what the Niners did to them a week or 2 weeks ago, and they pretty much neutralized everyone that wasn't Kenneth Walker, and they pretty much got the win. So I like the Bills in this. I think the Bills are going to go out there. The Seahawks defense isn't crazy great right now. They've been playing okay. Devon Witherspoon has been playing all right, but that's really kind of the only thing that I've been seeing. So I like the Bills, man. Amari Cooper's on. Khalil Shakir, Kean Coleman has been playing fantastically as well, and just that whole offense. I expect James Cook to start getting involved again. There's too many pieces in this Bills offense to account for. So it's going to be tough for Seattle, especially in a win. I think they would probably really rather have. in a competitive division when the Niners are just not looking like the Niners. So you want Seattle to get every win that they can, but I don't know. This is not this feels like a game that is going to be hard. It's got to go pretty much perfect for Seattle if they end up winning it.
Yeah, not to mention Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid, the guys that are really the number one options there now. So it's and Amari Cooper already got a touchdown, didn't even really know the play. Thanks, Keon Coleman, for that assist. Give me the Bills easy. Before we move on to the Sunday night matchup, got to say for the bettors, because I know you listen to this pod. Sorry, let me go back. Vikings versus Rams. Definitely take the over, in my opinion, on the Vikings. Sam Darnold, I'm not sure if I'd go 300 yards. I think if you get a 250 in there, I'd go 250. Justin Jefferson's plus 100. I would run that all day. And then honestly, dude, I would throw in some Aaron Jones there. Maybe throw an Aaron Jones touchdown. That'd be pretty solid. Eagles versus Bengals. You and I are differing opinions on this. I think this is going to be a game that's going to actually have a lot of points because I think the Eagles defense last week did hit, but they played the Giants. So who really knows? To me, the Giants are a bottom 3 team in the NFL. So for me, if you listen to Tanner, take the under in points. If you listen to me, the guy with the maroon hat on, you're taking the over in points. So what I'm saying is we're 50-50 here on that one. So not too positive on that one. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, those guys are definitely going to get yards in this one. Saquon Barkley over 100 yards, probably not going to get that for anything. Saquon maybe could get 2 touchdowns, but a guy I like in this game, aside from Jamar Chase, obviously on the Bengals side, is going to be Higgins. T. Higgins has come back and has come on incredibly. And, if they have an anytime touchdown for Higgins, definitely take that. Then we got Bears versus Commanders, like we just said. I think Caleb's going to have a good game. I do. So? I think Caleb's going to have at least 2. If Jaden goes, I wouldn't do any of the overs because I'm just not sure about Washington's offense at this point. So I wouldn't do anything against Washington's offense. I would take a Bears turnover though, because it's either going to be a kind of hurt Jaden Daniels or a backup quarterback in there. So those are the ones I'd go for that game. Bills and Seahawks. Take the points for the Bills. Josh Allen, give him 300 yards. Stephon Diggs, he's not there anymore. Just kidding. It's Amari Cooper. Get Amari Cooper a touchdown. Get him 100 yards. Not really. Don't give him 100 yards. Give him like 50 plus. It's going to be nothing.
He could. He absolutely could. Sorry, I'm interrupting. He's such a fantastic route runner. Like, he's just so good. And I just feel like he hasn't been utilized to his full extent since he was
in a while
at Alabama. Really? When was the last time you really saw teams trying to stretch the field with Amari Cooper? It didn't happen.
The one season with the Cowboys when he came in and he right off the Raiders, you showed how much better he was at the Cowboys than he was at the Raiders. Yeah. But then, like you said, it kind of trickled off every year after that.
So it wasn't even a full season. And I feel like he's not that guy who's going to run a deep threat, but I feel like he's just a guy that can absolutely do it. I saw him do it in Cleveland a ton. But it was just very, rarely you ever saw it. But he's just somebody who can play at so many different places just because he's so savvy, and so just like efficient in his route running. He just makes routes look like other routes, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. So I really hope with Buffalo's deep shot offense that he's gonna like explode in this offense because he's a guy that can do that. And once he gets that, kind of like neural link between him and Josh Allen, this is going to be a fun team. And they got a lot of time before the playoffs. So this might be my favorite move of free agency. I genuinely think just overall. That's, at least in season 100%. But it's a fantastic offense. And they're only going to get better, So I don't know. It's a Josh Allen season. Let's put it like that.
For sure. And, those quarterbacks in the AFC and, a couple in the NFC are not doing too bad either. But Josh Allen, definitely whatever you need to do with the yards and the tugs, definitely go. And then on the Seahawks side, honestly, the only thing I would kind of go for is anything with Kenneth Gainwell. And last week he was a little bit beat up, so that's assuming he's 100%. Kenneth Walker. I say Gainwell?
Yeah.
Whoops. Oh. That's another Kenneth Gainwell. Whoops.
Philly.
Yeah, there we go. My bad. Hey, at least it shows you knowledge. At least I know. Like number 2, number 3 running backs on the Eagles. Not there anymore. Anyway, Kenneth Gainwell. I did it again. Kenneth Walker. Bet everything on that guy because, I know it's going to be one-dimensional, but at the same time, I don't know if the Bills have the guys that can stop him because he is DK is 50% of that offense, and he's the other 50% of that offense when he's healthy. And even when he's not, they still feed him the rock. Now, back up to the present matchup, Sunday Night Football. I have listened, I have seen. I know you wanted some more bet stuff there, so there you go. Hope that was okay. Cowboys and 49ers, Sunday Night Football. Can't wait. East Coast for me, 8:20 most likely starts. Not going to end till midnight. Yay. Cowboys and 49ers. This one's going to be interesting. Who do you got?
It's tough. It's really tough. Do we know? I think they're playing in San Francisco, if I do believe. I think it's over there. It's tough because obviously, the obvious pick is the Niners, 100%.
Can I preface this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 1 wide receiver gone. Number 2 wide receiver gone.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end is week to week.
Oh, yeah.
Number 1 running back is already gone. Number 2 running back is played last week, so they're thinking he's gonna go again. We're not even gonna go on the defensive side of the ball. The fact that this is even a conversation is insane. But Dallas has injuries on defense too. Anyway, I just wanted to say that for the fans out there that didn't know. Go ahead.
It's the injury bowl, which is kind of where we're headed at this point, because Dallas has got nobody on the defense, and
nobody,
and the Niners have no one on offense. So it's going to be interesting. I think. At these are the types of games which you kind of lean on your veteran guys and your coaching staff, and I think that I think that they got them beat. The Niners got Cowboys beat in the coaching staff element. Kyle Shanahan, I don't know the last time they beat the Niners, to be honest with you. The Cowboys probably before Brock Purdy was the quarterback, so
I think it was Alex Smith.
You think
was
so?
the last time they took down the Niners?
No. It can't be. That's not right. There's no way. But it's been a while.
Well, did they play him with? I don't think they played him when they had Cap. I'll look. Look, because now you got me interested.
They might have beaten him in the Jimmy Garoppolo era, which is possible.
That's right.
But
I forgot about the Jimmy G era. I'm gonna make sure though.
Yeah, I would go back and check because I don't even know when the last time they played was that when Brock Purdy wasn't in there. So, but it's. I don't know what Dallas needs to do for this game. They obviously need to establish the run. They need to gain a presence on offense because their defense is not going to stop them. I really don't think that the injuries are going to be that crazy because you have Juwan Jennings, who has been playing fantastic in the absence of both of these guys, either or. So he's a guy that is absolutely going to step up. And I think Brock Purdy has been playing pretty dang well these past couple games. He's not played well against KC, but the other teams, man, I mean, how easy is it to say, how good would you feel, or at least how it just makes too much sense for Brock Purdy to go in there on Sunday night, have a great bounce back game against the Cowboys. It's just one of those things that just feels like it should totally happen given Brock Purdy's talent level.
So I don't know if this is right, but it's saying the last time was in 2020, and Dallas beat them in the NFC wildcard game 41-33 when Nick Mullins was the quarterback and Raheem Mostert was the running back for the 49ers.
You sure that's Dallas? Was that Dallas they were playing against?
Yeah, I'm looking right now on the football database. I'm looking at their head-to-head record. I'll go somewhere else, but I don't know. I mean, Wikipedia is not going to be the best.
Look up that game specifically. See if there was like an ESPN box score for it or something.
There was.
Okay.
There was.
All right.
Let's go to 49erswebzone.com. That seems like they'd have it right. Yeah, no, that's.
Cowboys put a 44 on them in 2020.
I don't remember that.
No.
In 2020 they did.
Well, it looks like that was probably the 2019 season going into 2020.
Okay. Okay, so they just had it missed. They had it. It definitely was not the NFC wildcard game. 100% was not. It was just a regular season game. It was Sunday, December 20th. I was going to say we have not beaten the Niners in the playoffs, and I know for a fact Dak has not done that. So that's why I got a little bit confused. It was I read the label wrong. So 2020, I misread it with Alex Smith, or I didn't get it right with Alex Smith, but it was Nick Mullins.
That was the year Dak got hurt. Then that was the year Dak got hurt. And they beat him.
So Dak hadn't done it yet.
I don't know if Dak's ever beat him. That's a different stat. That's a crazy stat. But no, man, it's just I don't know if these injuries are gonna matter for the Niners. I really don't know. I'm gonna go Niners. I can't not. just given the success that they've had recently and just the not, the failures that Dallas has had recently. Thank God Dallas isn't at home, or else I would be, we'd be done with this segment already. But I think it's going to be a close game for the most part. Dallas usually makes it close, and Lord knows Dallas has enough tape on the Niners at this point. So I think it'll be closer than people expect. It's not going to be a crazy good Sunday night game. I think there's going to be turnovers, probably by both teams. But the question is, can Dallas's defense stop the Niners with the injuries on both sides of those teams? But I just don't think they can. Even with Jordan Mason, it looks like a plug and play system. So give me the Niners on Sunday Night Football, which is kind of crazy to say, but this is the best chance Dallas will have recently and in the foreseeable future.
I would go Cowboys here if they had their defense, and I understand the reason I said that the Niners at the beginning of this conversation about this matchup. The reason if you're watching on the tube, I literally counted on the screen for you how many people were missing for the Niners. The thing with me with the Niners is that you nailed it. It's a plug and play system. I think that the Niners' number 2 running back is going to have over 100 yards on Dallas. I really do, because who's going to stop them? They haven't stopped anybody really. And then the other thing with the Niners is I understand that they're down their number 1, number 2 wide receivers, but Brock Purdy's looking for a bounce back game. It's going to be challenging, but if there's a defense to do it, it's this one, because there's not really a ton of pressure on the quarterback, and any mobile quarterback whatsoever, Dallas has a pretty big challenge with. And not to mention they haven't won since 2020. I'm going to go Niners as well. We love the Cowboys here on this podcast. We're Cowboys fans. Had season tickets forever. But we're not biased here. You know what I mean? And the 49ers right now, I understand that it's insane that we're picking them over Dallas. But if Dallas had a healthy defense, I would go for it. Hell, if Dallas just had Micah, I might go for it. But Dallas, to me, does not have a pass rusher that has had any success this season at all.
Mm-hmm.
And their defensive backs look horrendous. And, oh, by the way, their linebackers are banged up. So that's my thing. And then last thing on this matchup, the 49ers defense is starting to hum. That's scary.
Oh, yeah.
That's very scary. Bosa's starting to go.
Bosa time. Fred Warner's a man on a mission.
Literally, these guys are playing at an all-time level, and when I say all-time, they do it every single year. You know what I mean? So the Niners are too good, even with their depth, and it's crazy to say that going into a Sunday night game, getting swept on this pod. But 49ers for both of us. In the Monday night game.
Before you go, I did look it up.
Oh,
sorry. Before you go,
okay, go ahead.
Cliffhanger.
Go ahead.
Dak, the last time Dak beat San Francisco, he has beaten them, but this is regular season, was in 2017, in October of 2017. So that is well before a whole lot of the quarterbacks we see now. And that was Dak's second year in the NFL. And the previous year, they did also beat them in 2016. So Dak hasn't like never beaten the Niners, but it's been, 7 years since that has ever happened. Before Brock Purdy, before Jimmy Garoppolo, all that stuff. When the Niners were like
Nick
bad.
Mullins.
Yeah, when they had those guys. I think a name that comes to me is oh my God, Beathard. What is his first name? Remember
CJ.
him? CJ Beathard.
Out of Iowa, I think.
Mr. Beathard, I love him. he's just killing it. So that was that's the last time they beat him, I think, over in that era, if you Niners fans remember. So not a whole lot on the resume. We'll put it like that.
We got the stats and we got the comms this episode too. Let's rock and roll, baby. Anyway, the face I made in the cliffhanger is because this Monday night matchup.
It's awful, isn't it?
All these night matchups are horrible. Like they have not all of them have been horrible. You did start the season off pretty solid. Then you have like Philly and Brazil, and you're like, what the hell is that?
True.
No, it hasn't been good. I'm not gonna lie to you. And also but I'm a little biased because being on the East Coast now, I freaking hate the night games anyway because they start so damn late. Giants versus the Steelers. Hey, it's not another 2 for Monday night. Let's go. God, I mean, Daniel Jones coming off getting benched. I don't even know who else they have there. I should know that. I should be better than that. But give me Steelers. Tomlin is. My thing is that organization has had like less than 5 coaches their entire existence or something crazy like that, which is absurd. And Tomlin's been there forever, and he's never had the losing season, right? These are games he wins. It's just that simple. These are games he wins. Unless Malik Neighbors comes out and has 200 yards, there's nothing else that can stop this Steelers team from winning. So give me Steelers.
I think Tomlin, in my opinion, and I was just thinking about this as you were saying it, he's probably at least top 3.
Two.
You think 2? You think 2? Who's number 1?
Belichick. He has to be.
No, not. Oh, I was saying in the NFL right now. That's
Oh,
where I was
right
gonna,
now.
That's where I was going to end it. So you're thinking he's number 1 right now, then? Over
Yeah.
Harbaugh over there in Baltimore. I think that's the only one that would compete with me, really. Maybe McVay.
How many Super Bowls
maybe
has
Shanahan?
Tomlin won?
2, right? They have 2.
He's got more than everybody else. That's why I'm going him.
That's true. That is true. Because didn't they? Wait, no. Well, does he have 1? Because they beat the Cardinals, and didn't they lose to the Packers? In the early 2000s.
Check that real quick.
I'll check it after this, but yeah, I don't remember. I remember those 2 ones specifically. I don't remember the others if there were any.
Because I know they won when they had Hines Ward, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they had the catch in the back of the end zone to Santonio Holmes. Yeah, and that was the one they won 100%. But they lost another one to Rodgers, which was that later on in like the early 2010s or whatever. But I'll look it up. But anyway, I'm going Steelers. It's not even close. Like, sorry, Giants, you suck. And Russell Wilson has his deep balls, and they are just absolutely insane right now. The deepest they've ever been. And George Pickens is a clear-cut number 1. And I think they're just going to continue to feed him. Like, why wouldn't you? He's beating single coverage, and he's probably going to beat double. So it's a recipe for success. And give Najee all the space he wants. He's a physical runner, and he's going to go down there. He's playing his best ball, I think, of his career right now. So I like the Steelers on Monday night. I think it's going to be more of what we saw, this past game. It's going to be a lot of the same stuff, and Russ gives you so much more of a chance to run any kind of offense you want. Just so many more wrinkles and stuff like that for defenses to have to account for. So yeah, easily give me the Steelers, but I will look that up though.
So now that we're doing that, we're going to leave you with a cliffhanger for next podcast because I can't not do it now. We're definitely, Tanner and I are each going to give you our top 5 active coaches right now, best coaches, and that's what we're going to do next week. We'll see if we'll expand it to ever, because in our lifetimes, it's pretty similar. You got the stat?
I was right. The Super Bowl, they played the Seahawks in 2006, so the 2005 season, and they won 21-10. And yeah, the other one that they did win was against the Cardinals. So it doesn't show. This is on like Steelers.com, so it's right. But yeah, they've won 2 in the Big Ben era, I believe.
Yeah, and Harbaugh could very, very well win this year. You know what I mean? He very well could. The thing about it is that it's hard to argue anybody other than Tomlin when you look at consistency.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to argue because like he's never had one of those seasons. Like, here's what I'm thinking from a coaching perspective, right? He's never ever had one of those seasons. Maybe when he came in, he got a draft off of a bad team. Maybe I don't know that far. I did watch his inaugural year, but I don't remember that. I don't remember where they were drafting. I would assume if they needed a new coach and they finally brought one in, they probably did. Anyway. That means that this man has not picked inside like more than 15 because he's like 8-8. He's always middle of the pack in the draft. So that tells you how good he drafts as well. And also like he's never had one of those records where he's gotten like, because the thing about it is you can argue, some of the coaches get one draft like the Seahawks and bada bing bada boom. You got a dynasty and you got guys, right? Dallas. They did have Romo, but they have, one draft and it can change a team. The Houston Texans, they had one draft and it could change a team. But every one of those drafts that I just named, every team had like a couple wins or 4 wins, max 5 wins. Steelers hadn't had that. So for me, that's why I'm going Tomlin. Because if I had to guess, I would assume that Harbaugh, Shanahan, and McVay at some point in their career have gotten bodied and gotten a really, really good draft. How many of those guys have actually worked and panned out, I'm not sure. But that's kind of my reasoning with Tomlin. I'll be straight up with you. I was not a fan of Tomlin when he first started. That's because he was a Steeler. And I'm like, he's not going to be good. They've got to have a bad coach finally, right? Nope. Just kidding. He's one of the best they've had all time. So
yeah, so they actually, sorry, I'm looking up history.
Here we go.
Tomlin was he was a coach in 2000. The year after they won the Super Bowl is when I believe Cowher that was the last season that he coached for them. Yeah, and then in 2000, the 2006 season, maybe it was one more, but around that time, Tomlin was the coach in 2007. So he didn't get that first one in 2006 with them with Big Ben, I don't believe. So Tomlin only
Yeah,
has
one.
one, but Big Ben is two. So kind of a little wrinkle, you know, but absolutely,
Ah,
he's still amazing.
it's a good stat. That's a good stat. That's why I listen to the pod. That's why I listen to the pod. Tanner and I bring the stats. All right, that's good. Little trip down memory lane for the Steelers. So much Steelers talk this episode.
I
Wow.
know. I didn't
You
think it
know,
was
this
going to happen.
no, me neither. But hey, we got to talk about the teams that are doing well. Now, next segment, let's go ahead and move on to college football. Tanner, are you ready to talk about college football and show the people on the tube what we're working with here? We've got Alabama falling to Tennessee, and Indiana is ranked above them.
It
When was the last time you heard that? I don't know if you have,
before
folks.
Saban, I'll tell you that much, you know. So this is you know, it's concerning. I think absolutely if you're a Bama fan. I mean, this is not the brand of football that you have seen from them in years past. You know, I think Jalen Milroe is not playing great football right now. He's turning the ball over, and he's not putting up a whole lot of great stats. So I think it's that offense that they're you'd think that they got one of the best youngest receivers in the country, and they're it kind of seems like he's just getting bottled up every game. So they're not able to produce a whole ton on offense, and when they are, it's um, their defense isn't helping them a whole ton. It was a lower scoring game, 100%, but like it's Tennessee. This is a team that you should know and you should be able to beat. Pretty much almost every time you play them. If you're the caliber of Alabama that you have been the past however many years with Saban. Saban's the coach of this team. I don't know if they lose this game. Obviously, it's it's a couple bridge years. It's not the same old Bama team. It's going to take time for this new system this new culture, everything to get underway and everything like that. Like you're going to have to give them a lot of benefit of the doubt, but not looking great, just in terms of overall football, in terms of overall um, efficiency in the game and just how they're looking and how they're playing. So it's Tennessee, deservedly won that game. And it's crazy because in the games that their defense is playing well, their offense isn't. And the games that their offense is playing well, their defense isn't. So they just need to put together a good week against a good team, which they really haven't shown this up to this point in the season. So I'm curious to see how it moves going forward. And what rank did they fall to? Do we know? Is it like mid-teens or something like that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
there's
think I think they're 15, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, awesome. So they're still in a good position to make the playoffs, especially since there will be more top teams that will lose. You can't say that there aren't. So I think that if they can kind of go on a run to the end of the season, they can absolutely still make the 12-team playoff. They're right there. They just got to get a couple positions in, and Bama coming out of like the end of the 12-team playoff is going to be scary. Considering the talent that's going to be up there. So season's not even close to over, which is awesome, right? Like they lost to Vandy and then they lost to Tennessee, and the season's like still very much alive for them. So I love this 12-team playoff. It just makes this season so much more fun to watch. Because if this were 4 years ago or 2 years ago or however long, it's not. The season's over. You got 2 losses. You're Alabama. Say goodnight. It's going to be tough to get a Premier Bowl game after that. So I love the 12-team playoff, and this is nowhere close to curtains for Alabama. They got a lot of talent there. That is clearly obvious, and they just got to start implementing that system, that new culture, and they'll get going right again. I think that this is a team that has a lot of support in the fan base, and that's just going to help them get rolling even more. So they just need a big win to show everyone that they're the Alabama of old, and I think things are going to go right back to how they were.
And moving on to the next, UT versus Georgia. I mean, I was watching that game, from start to finish, and UT just never got anything going. They even pulled Quinn Ewers at one point for Arch Manning, then they went back to Quinn Ewers. nothing was working for them. A lot of people said it was the welcome to the SEC moment. Georgia had recently played UT in a bowl game a couple of years ago, and UT actually won that game. But they weren't in the SEC at that point. I do remember watching that game as well. But it was a game that it shows you what the SEC is. If you have a bad game in the Big 12, maybe you can squeak it out. In the SEC, you can't. You know what I mean? If you have a bad game like Alabama, you lose to Tennessee or Vanderbilt. Like it's the premier conference, and that's why it's so much fun. And Georgia skyrockets up the rankings, and we're going to hit that here in a second. But that UT versus Georgia game, they just never got anything going, and Georgia now looks like one of the top teams in the country, and you can't argue that. So we'll see what happens with UT going forward. Texas A&M. Texas A&M played Mississippi State, ended up getting the win there, and now they have LSU. This is the game of the season right here for A&M. If A&M beats LSU, right now Texas A&M Gigs is the number one team in the SEC, and they also have the number one SEC standings in terms of ranking because of their in-conference play. So if A&M wins this game, they are, if A&M beats LSU, then for me it's going to be really hard to say they lose again this season, unless it could possibly be to a University of Texas team at the end. We don't know. But if A&M goes in this season and ends with 2 losses, I do think it is a team that sneaks into the college football playoff, especially because you are playing multiple teams that are ranked in the top 10 this year. When A&M played, a couple weeks ago, they played a team in Missouri that was top 10. I get they've fallen off since then, but they were. Notre Dame was top. They've fallen off, but they still are. Well, technically Notre Dame's above us in the rankings. But A&M has a very, very good shot in, to be honest, a shot to make not only the playoffs, but to be in the SEC championship game. So to be an Aggie right now, it's super exciting. Now, given it's LSU, it's at nighttime, and it's one of those games that A&M historically has not had the better end of that side. So it's going to be a very, very contested game. It's going to be very close, but it's going to be the best game of the weekend, and I cannot wait to watch it. Who do you have? A&M and the Tigers, man, because this is a Tigers team that is ranked number 8. Once again, we're going to review the rankings just after this matchup, but this is number 8 LSU going against number 14 Texas A&M.
LSU looked pretty good last week. They looked pretty good.
Real good.
Took out Ole Miss in an absolute banger of a game in a press conference that, after the end of the game, Dart goes up and he's like, I don't know how we lost that game. He's just like, I don't know. So that just gives you all you need to know against that LSU team. I mean, they just went in there and stole it. They absolutely stole it. And saying that they can't do the same thing against A&M is just, crazy. So the only thing I think that A&M does have going for them in this game is they do play at Kyle Field. They play at Kyle Field this game and the University of Texas game, both of them. So it gives them that added little bonus. A&M plays fantastic at home. Fantastic at home. The 12th man is in full effect. One of the best stadiums to play in the national, NCAA.
NCAA.
There you go. So I'm not gonna. You know what?
Don't do it.
We're not gonna do it. We'll go with LSU. We'll be level headed. We'll be level headed here. I get it. I understand. A&M has played well, but I want to see them do it against a really good team. I want to see them put up a good win against a good team. Mizzou, 100%. Yes, they were a good team. They haven't looked like the same team since that, though. And I get it's been 1 week, but that's a team that looked pretty weak. And I don't know, maybe that was a trap game for A&M kind of situation, but LSU is it's a rivalry, and it's a game. These teams know each other really well. So I just don't know if I have a whole ton of faith in Connor Weigman to go up there and have the game of his life, because I think that's really what it's going to take to win this game. Like you said, I think this is the most important game, at least up to this season at this point, and maybe overall, considering how things will end out. So it's a night game. I believe it's College Game Day, actually it might not be, but it is a premier matchup because A&M already has College Game Day this year, so they might not get it again. But it is Saturday night, which is great. So I got LSU. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but I've seen A&M crumble in these games at the worst moments so many times.
Every year.
at Kyle Field. I think it will be close. I really do. I don't think A&M's going to get slaughtered in this matchup. Their defense is too good. But I just don't know if A&M's offense is going to be able to put up the amount of points that they need to win. Like realistically, I don't know if they're going to be as successful as they want to be. So LSU's always got dogs. Their offense is going to be just fine. I think they're going to bleed through the cracks a couple times and get a couple scores off of whatever. But A&M in the biggest window is not my favorite. So I got LSU, but I got them by like 3. Something real small.
I'm gonna go A&M just because we can't have 2 LSU picks on this podcast. No, I mean A&M has a shot, but like you said, it has to be on the shoulders of Connor Wakeman, however you want to say it. That's going to be tough. They also have a running back there that was leading the SEC up until last week with Zach Moss, so that's a kid that you really got to lean on as well. But LSU has a very, very good run defense, and they're very stout, very fast, very quick. So it's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be the hardest game of the season to this point, in my opinion. Like you said, if they are not hitting on every single cylinder, it's not going to happen. And this is pretty much a college football playoff game because you are playing for your college football life at this point in time. If you go down to 2 losses and you still have to play the University of Texas and finish out the season in the SEC, none of those are gimmies. Yep. So if you want to position yourself to potentially get into the college football playoff, this is the best way to do it. Right now, you're sitting at 14. You're on the outside looking in. This is a way to pretty much solidify yourself in there. So A&M, let's go get the win. Kyle Field's going to be rocking. That 12th man's going to be there. I've seen many LSU games at A&M. Every time I went, we got destroyed. Thank you, Leonard Fournette. Now, that's it on college football. Well, actually, just kidding. We're going to review the new rankings very quickly. We're going to rapid fire this. The Oregon Ducks, number 1. University of Georgia, number 2. They actually jumped Penn State, who is undefeated. Georgia has 1 loss, but they're sitting there at number 2. Ohio State, your boys are sitting there at number 4. Then you've got the University of Texas fell all the way to number 5. Miami is 7-0 at number 6. Tennessee, another SEC team, is number 7 at 6-1. LSU, SEC team, 6-1. Number 8, Clemson, 6-1. The Iowa State Cyclones.
They look good.
are fat chilling at number 10, baby. Then we've got BYU 7-0, Notre Dame at number 12. The
made it back up.
Indiana University. I think that's Indiana University.
Yeah,
IU.
it's Indiana.
Okay, Indiana. I think I might have said the Hoosiers. I think I gave them props earlier, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I make sure to say Indiana because they were ranked higher in Alabama. Then A&M. Then Alabama. Ooh. Kansas State there. Then we got Boise State. Ooh, that running back, son, JD. Ole Miss fell all the way to 18 after that loss. Pittsburgh, 19. Illinois, 20. Mizzou is all the way down there at 21 with 1 loss against A&M, which is pretty crazy. SMU is down there at 22. Then you have Army and Navy, and then Vanderbilt, 23, 24, 25. Now, moving on to
schools, man.
A ton of SEC schools, and there's still a ton of time left. We are moving to UFC 308. We're just going to do a couple matchup previews here. Nothing crazy. I'm just going to go, not necessarily against the people I know, but just a couple hit real quick. One that's not, it's not going to be on the pay-per-view. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be Rafael dos Anjos. That's a legend in the game. Absolute legend, Brazilian cat. Dude's overall in his career, 32, 16-0. He is fighting Neil, who is a heavy favorite. He's an American, Neil is, but Rafael dos Anjos, anytime he's on the card, you got to watch that. Then you've got the one-eyed wonder from Russia, Shara Magadov. This dude is unbelievable, and he is the guy that I'm pretty sure starts out the pay-per-view card. I would assume that that's the guy that starts out the card.
Does he really have one eye? Is he like a pirate? Got an eye patch,
No, he legitimately only has one eye.
That's impressive. I feel like that would fuck with your depth perception, especially in MMA.
No, that's
UFC.
Like 100%. 100%. That's why it's crazy that this dude's doing this with one eye. Like he legitimately has if you look it up on, I'm just looking on ESPN right now and just looking at the matchups. He's matchup number 5 if you look at him. I'm not going to show you on the screen, but you should look at him on matchup 5. It's absolutely crazy. He literally does not have an eye, but this dude can freaking throw some of the hardest punches and kicks you've ever seen. This guy is a knockout just machine. So if you're watching the card this weekend, I would bet the knockout on this guy because he's so good and he has so much hype behind him. Match 4, Lerone Murphy and Dan Ige. Dan Ige's good. He's not the favorite on this one. Lerone Murphy's going to be the favorite. I would probably stick with that. I like Dan Ige though, just because he's always a fun fighter to watch. Then you have the third match. God, dude, just these are so hard names. Akalaev, Magomed Akalaev. I know that one. Rakic. I don't know how to say his first name. Might be just Alexander Rakic. Magamayev is a dude. I'm pretty sure he's from Dagestan. He's the guy that trains in Khabib's gym, if I'm not mistaken. He's just a freaking warrior. And if you're a UFC fan or not, if you got guys training with Khabib and they're from Dagestan, be careful. Be careful. That's the current lightweight champ right now. There's a lot of guys from Dagestan that are just disgusting. And Belal Muhammad, also the guy that just took out Sugar Sean O'Malley. That guy also has trained with Khabib before. So I'm going to go with Ankalaev, and he's a heavy, heavy favorite. Now we're getting to my two matches. Oh, my God. We have Robert Whittaker. Oh, love that guy. One of the best press conferences of all time when they ask him about Alex Pereira. He's Australian, and they asked him, and he goes, have you seen that fella? Or New Zealand. He's New Zealand or Australian. It's hilarious. Got to go check it out. And Khamzat Chimaev is here. Does he make weight? Who knows? He usually doesn't, but if he does, this is a guy that has positioned himself to be a future UFC champion, in my opinion. This guy is unbelievable. He has the gnarliest gash, like, cut right here. Like, he almost doesn't have, like, a lip. Another guy that's just unbelievable. He's 13-0. Him and Gilbert Burns had a hell of a fight back in the day. One of the best pre-fight. He's sitting there waiting, jumped up on the side of the cage and is chilling and waiting for Gilbert Burns. Such a freaking hard thing. I was like, this guy's insane. It's a big fight. He's a huge favorite against Robert Whittaker. Chimaev can beat your ass standing up, and he can beat your ass on the ground when he gets you on the ground because he's stupid good in wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So Robert Whittaker's no chum. He's been in this division for a long time. He's got serious knockout power, but give me Chimaev in this one by knockout, or pretty, I don't know about early, but it's a tough one. And then the one that everybody's been waiting for, Max Holloway, certified BMF himself, coming off Justin Gaethje knocking him out, pointing in the middle of the octagon, 10 seconds left, flatlines Gaethje against Ilia Topuria. He finally is fighting. He's defending his title, and this guy's disgusting. Ilia Topuria is disgusting. So you're going up against the new school, and you're going up against the old school in Max Holloway. Max Holloway, to me, is one of the best boxers that the UFC has ever seen, ever. Also came out and said that he learned moves off the UFC video game. Me too, dude. Me too, and I practice my punching bag. Except you're a professional fighter, and I fight in my garage. It's hard for me to ever pick against Max Holloway, even though he's such an underdog in this fight. I would love for Max to get one more final go. Ilya's too fast, in my opinion. Ilya's just too fast. Ilia Topuria is a guy that is just on another level right now, but so is Max. So this one is a toss-up for me, but if they start, and it actually starts with them standing in the middle of the round, in the middle of the octagon, in the first 10 seconds and throwing, we'll see what happens. We'll see how good of a boxer Topuria is, because you've seen him before in a fight get hit real hard, but he recovered. Max Holloway, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's been knocked out, but Max is a guy that's just on another level right now, and just nobody had him in that Justin Gaethje fight. That's the UFC talk for this episode. Now we are going to go to the last segment of this episode, and we are going to talk World Series, the World Series picks. We have the Dodgers versus the Yankees, the two pretty much biggest teams in all of baseball, going up against one another. Tanner, you got the Dodgers, or do you got the Yankees? Who do you got?
You mean it's hard? It's so
Yeah.
hard. I'm gonna go Yankees. I think the Yankees are pretty stinking good right now. I think that Aaron Judge, when he's on, he's the best player in baseball. And he finally got over that hump with, his postseason success. And
Yep.
I think it's just gonna unlock this Yankees team moving forward. And what a better time to do it too. Just getting up. And now you're in the World Series, and now you have the confidence. You pretty much just destroyed the Guardians and made it look pretty easy. So obviously Dodgers are going to be a more of a test, but I don't know. It's going to be tough for me. Him and Soto have been having just been doing what they do, and I like it a lot. I think it's gonna be a close series. I hope it goes to Game 7. I really do. I want to see Ohtani in every single game that I possibly can in a World Series. But I want to ask you, because I think I asked it earlier when the playoffs started. But as the resident Angels fans, are we on like? What type of watch are we on right now, for Angels fans? Should we be concerned with their well-being, considering the Dodgers are in the World Series the year they get Ohtani?
I mean, the crazy part too is Ohtani wasn't even pitching this season.
I know. He's just ripping.
Let's all remember that. You and I, who would have thought it? You and I saw one of his last games that he's ever pitched so far.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And we got the visit and everything. We got all that seats dug out right there. That was perfect. Hey, Angels, look, you charge $300 a ticket. That's absurd. But Ohtani's there. Like, I understand. I get it. All right, I get it. Now you could probably go for 3 cents. Angels fan. Also a Sharks fan. It's the second podcast in a row where the Sharks still haven't won a game in the NHL. We're one of the winless teams. Got to throw that up there.
But Macklin's Celebrini,
He's injured. That's why. He got injured the first game.
It's tough.
The very first game.
Tough scene.
Yeah, it's tough. You got some good guys over there. You got Will Smith. Sharks have very good young talent. It's just, once again, young talent. Like Blackhawks are years off. But they got a really good talent. Anyway, baseball. Angels. They were one of the first teams, aside from the White Sox, to know that they weren't going to make the playoffs. So they are quite literally one of the worst teams in baseball. I think every bit of sanity would go out the window if Trout eventually goes, which I think every Angels fan right now is like, he's still fucking here?
Yep.
Like, he's still here? Like, that is a loyal guy through and through. Now, I get you say loyal, but like the money he's made at the Angels, like, look, I get he's loyal, but I know that the Yankees would have paid him more. But still, it's like, I'm going to look at that as loyal, even though he has an absurd amount of money that he's made. But Angels are going nowhere fast. Not even anywhere close. I don't know if the playoffs are honestly in reach within the next 5 years. Like, the Angels they're just nowhere near. Yeah, they're nowhere near close. But you went the Yankees, so it hurts to do, but I gotta go for the Dodgers because born in California, I really root for California teams if my squad's not in there, or Texas teams. You know what I mean? Because I live there. So I'm gonna go Dodgers here, but I do think that two of the most in terms of like payroll, like the highest in the entire league. So they got guys. They both got rosters out the wazoo. It's just who's going to have better pitching, in my opinion, who's ever going to win this World Series, because you have hitters on the other team and you need some guys to step up pitching wise. So whoever has the better arms in this series, I think is going to take it. But I'm going to have the Dodgers, and I can't wait to watch it starting on Friday. That's a good start too.
Yeah,
but I think
it's interesting. I would say I think it's interesting. You got 2 back-to-back World Series where last year you had Texas and then in Arizona, which is kind of like 2 teams that you really wouldn't expect to be there, and now you have the teams that are like, all right, yeah, this is probably the World Series we picked out at the beginning of the season. So it's cool to look at the dichotomy and just be like, okay, yeah, this is Major League Baseball, and everyone's here to play this year as opposed to last year, unless your name is Bryce Harper with the Phillies, but we'll just push that under the rug.
Yeah, but if you look at big market teams too, think about it. The Mets are right there. Mets are right there too in terms of highest payroll. So it's like, it makes sense, And then you have Cleveland, who's not. They're the one team that wasn't. So it's like you had 3 of the big dogs going up against Cleveland, and Cleveland got, you already know what happened to Cleveland. You nailed it. But it's one of those things. It's like in hockey, do you like it when the Detroit Red Wings and the Blackhawks are in the playoffs? Yeah, as a fan, I do, because it's original 6 team, and it's a team that brings in a ton of cheddar and a ton of money, and they've got some superstars on those teams. Well, did in the past with Detroit. They got some stars on their teams now. I don't know if I'd say superstar. Bedard, I'd say he's a superstar, but he's got a couple years. Anyway, that's how I am. You know what I mean? If they spend the most money, why the hell aren't they there? Shouldn't they be there every year? They spend the most money. You know what I mean? So I got Dodgers, you got Yankees. We'll see what happens. But I think that is enough sports for this episode. Technical difficulties aside, it was a fun one. We'll see you later next week, folks.
Bye-bye.